It was one of the pivotal conflicts during World War II, the Battle of the Bulge. And one local veteran who fought in the battle recently had the opportunity to visit the battlefields, which helped turn the tide of the war. Tonight we meet veteran Tom Lacey in our spotlight to those who served.
I'm Tom Lacey. I was with the 99th Infantry Division in World War II.
Lacey was in high school when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, so when he graduated, he knew what he had to do.
Well, it was a thing to do in those days.
He joined up in the spring of 1943 at a time when most Americans thought the war in Europe was all but won.
Honestly, at the time that I went in, everybody thought the war would be over by Christmas. That was in 1943. It took about 2 more years, a little over 2 years before it was.
After joining the 99th, they were shipped off to Belgium, right across the border from Germany. He did not know it yet, but he was about to become a part of one of the key battles in World War II, the last major German offensive campaign, the Battle of the Bulge. His company dug in just over the German border.
And we sat there for the better part of 6 weeks. And then the Battle of the Bulge began on the 16th of December. And things changed a lot. First thing that happened was we got surrounded.
The Germans bombarded the American troops. Bombs went off in the forest, turning trees into shrapnel.
If you were in the living hole, you'd be all right. But if you were out, your chance of getting hit was very high, very high.
Lacey's company left the woods and made it to a nearby ridge.
Once we got on the Elsenborn Ridge, we get shells all the time, all day long, initially, until the 23rd of December.
On the 23rd, the temperatures dropped. While the troops on the ground dealt with freezing temperatures, the skies cleared, allowing Allied air forces to attack the German troops, turning the tide of the battle. Shortly after that, in January of 1945, the German offensive was halted and the Allies started marching into Germany. Lacey, with the rest of the 99th, started taking back control of local villages until in the spring of '45, his sergeant came to him with news.
He says, "Lacey, pack up your duffel bag and get going and be ready to be picked up. You're going home." I said, "Yeah, and President Roosevelt's going to escort me, right?" And he said, "Lacey, you don't get your duffel bag. I'm giving this to somebody else."
For Lacey, the war was over, although he was not officially discharged until early in 1946. He went on to get his engineering degree from Purdue and ended up working for McDonnell Douglas in St. Louis, designing military aircraft.
Ended up working on the Harrier, which I loved. It was my airplane, more or less.
He met his wife in St. Charles, and the two had 12 children.
This is Rob. This is Rosie.
And it was one of his children who went with Lacey this fall back to Belgium, where the country honored the American soldiers who helped win the Battle of the Bulge 75 years ago. Lacey received a hero's welcome on his return home to St. Louis as well.
Get ready, he's coming.
As Lacey exited the jet bridge, cheers and thank yous echoed in the terminal.
A little celebration going on for you.
Oh my God.
Lacey was surprised to see some of his 12 children and dozens of grandchildren waiting for him at Lambert.
I think it's a great tribute to not only my dad, but to all the World War II vets that never really got a hero's welcome when they came back.
Now, a few months after that trip and 75 years after serving his country, Lacey still recalls the hard times spent during the war and the good times that followed.
So it's been a great life.
Emily Pritchard, News 4.